This is a wonderful video where a dog trainer from Miracle Canine is actually sitting down and talking about the dependence on Ecollars. Now, what people don't understand is that I've been watching this game for the last 15 years, and 15 years ago, the e-collar and prong collar and whatnot, they were tools of last resort. Use the tool, train the dog, and not get rid of the tool. It never worked that way, but yet 15 years on, here we are. It's an insurance policy now. Always leave it on the dog. What she calls positive punishment under Skinner is actually under Conrad Most, or primary compulsive inducements. That's the reality. That's what your prong collars and e-collars are. It's not positive punishment. Skinner openly opposed punishment, but yet these people blame Skinner for the quadrants of dog training. And it's a lie. Let's get into what she says because it's very interesting.
People can sometimes talk about, oh, you're too dependent on your e-collar if your dog can't listen with it. My dog can listen without the
My dog can listen without the e-collar, but they can listen without the e-collar. But
e-collar, but she is an animal, and if
she's an animal. That's the very problem right now. Now we're going to invoke Edward Thorndike and methodological behaviorism. The number one rule for methodological behaviorism is do not dare compare human behavior to that of lesser species. But yet B.F. Skinner, the very man that they blame, would tell you to replace your dog with a human child and ask you what you would do different. Skinner was a radical behaviorist. Again, this is just more lies, exposing more lies.
she realizes over and over and over again that there's no consequence to her.
She realizes over and over and over again that there's no consequences to her, so she's going to default back to the original behavior. Why? Because the training tools are not working. They're not training tools. They're tools of control and management. That's all they are.
Her behavior, she's going to act like an animal, and
She's going to act like an animal. And again, this goes back to Edward Thorndike. Don't dare compare human behavior to that of lesser species. But yet again, Skinner would tell you to replace your dog with a human child. So what gives? We are animals, lady. The human being is an animal. We fight or flight just like the dog does, but that's not convenient to you. David Turpak did a great video on negative reinforcement where he completely fucking botched it. That's the reality.
she's going to do what feels right and what feels good for her.
What feels good for her, what feels good to the dog is called positive reinforcement. That's the animal's positive reinforcements. So every time you zap that collar, you're taking away positive reinforcement. You're shutting down the dog's positive reinforcement, the dog's desires, the dog's wants, the dog's needs. That's called punishment, and that's the worst punishment you can do. How did Skinner define punishment? You're trying to remove the behavior from an animal's repertoire. That's exactly what you're trying to do. The dog's not allowed to do anything because they're always under the threat of constant punishment. It's the threat of punishment. That's what the e-collar is. It's the constant threat of punishment that keeps the dog in line. And Skinner would tell you point blank that punishment itself is the reverse of reinforcing. It weakens. It causes fear.
So, chasing a rabbit, smelling the food on the floor.
Yeah, these are all the dog's positive reinforcements. Why? Why are you trying to shut these things down instead of understanding them? That's the problem. But again, the e-collar is nothing more than the constant threat of punishment that she requires to keep the dog in line. Once you require that constant threat of punishment, the tool becomes a insurance policy. Always leave it on the dog. 15 years ago, again, these things were tools of last resort. Today they're an insurance policy. And she's explaining why.
Eating things that she shouldn't be eating. She loves that stuff.
She loves that stuff as a positive reinforcement to the dog, but you're going to shut down that positive reinforcement. You're going to apply negative reinforcement, and that's called punishment, to shut down a dog's positive reinforcement. This is why dog training today is not working. Dog training itself needs to go in the garbage. These people are IGP dog trainers under Conrad Most, the book Training Dogs. That is their very Bible, but they will never talk about Conrad Most. I would love to see David Turpak get online and talk about Conrad Most. He won't do it because his own brethren, his own buddies, will kick his own ass on his channel.
It's not going to stop unless I'm able to address it.
There you go. It's not going to stop unless I'm able to address it. It's the threat of punishment. You always need that threat of punishment. That's why the e-collar works. Otherwise, get rid of the e-collar, the dog goes back to the default behavior. And this is exactly what she's saying.
So it's not dependency on the e-collar.
It is dependency on the e-collar. You're dependent on the e-collar being the constant threat of punishment to keep the dog in line. But yet, we call them training tools. These are not training tools. They are simply tools of control and management.
It's just having a clear set of expectations that your dog knows yes and no.
It's the constant threat of punishment. That's what the e-collar is. This is the reason why dog trainers will never take the e-collar off. This is the reason why they're telling you to leave the e-collar on at all times, because you always need to have the constant threat of punishment to control the dog. And all it does is weaken. Again, punishment is the reverse of reinforcing. But yet they're all about punishment. Punish the dog, punish the dog, punish the dog.
And you can set up your life from there. People can...
Have a good day.